to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Today, I am joined by Geoff Siebold of Stanton Carpet. Geoff has passionately been engaged in the luxury carpet and area rug market for more than 22 years. He began his career as a manufacturer's sales agent, representing high-end carpet and rug brands throughout the Midwestern United States. He eventually went on to become national sales manager for Antrim Carpet, and ultimately, he became the national vice president of premier brands, including Antrim, Rosecore, and Crescent Carpets. Geoff knows carpets inside and out, and you'll quickly understand this from his conversation. What I want you to understand is when we serve clients better, when we understand what we're offering and why, when we can look at their lives and their visions and goals for their home and say, you know what, this is exactly what we need to do in this space for your home. And when you can also say, and this absolutely won't work, and here's why. Right? Because when we do that, we bring a deeper level of expertise. And when we bring that, we are more confident. And when we're more confident, we are way more likely to charge our value and ultimately run a better business. So today, Geoff is going to share a little bit about what you need to know so that you can serve your clients at a higher level. And before we get started, I'd love to take a minute to thank our show sponsor, Cravit. Like Geoff and Stanton Carpet, Cravit is committed to helping you serve your clients better. Their website makes finding quality home furnishings, fabric, wallpaper, and trim, all the things, easier for you. You can quickly access all your tools like your account settings, price lists, current and past orders, and more. Visit Cravit.com today to see it for yourself and to set up your account. When you have your account set up, be sure to use the code AWDB10 for 10% off any one order of Cravit fabric, wallpaper, or trim. This is their gift to you as a listener of the podcast. Okay, let me introduce you to Geoff. Hi, Geoff. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
LuAnn, thank you so much for having me.
So, Geoff, I am looking forward to this conversation because, you have a career in the luxury carpet industry, and I don't talk about the pretty on the podcast, right? I don't talk about what kind of area rug should you have as far as color and style, but I do think it's very important, and I do think it affects our profitability and our efficiency as a designer to understand the types of carpets there are, how, what the fibers are, what the contents, all the things, so that it goes down my mind. If I were to specify the wrong, construction or fibers or whatever it is. Sure. And then I got to turn around and maybe in a year or 6 months, look at a client who's saying, this didn't perform. I want you to give me my money back. So that's how this ties in for me and educating the designers listening. And so I'm excited to learn a little bit more about carpeting and, all of the things with you.
Yeah, and that's my pleasure. Absolutely. Because those are some of the things that, people sometimes neglect. And it's, to your point, color, style, does it work? It works with my scheme. Let's go with it. But there are some perils there if that's your only criteria.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you in Window Works, I have, here and there sold it basically on style.
We're all guilty of it at some point.
You know what I mean? And fingers crossed it lasts on the stair runner.
Sure. That's right. All best intention.
It looks good. It looks pretty to me. I would have bought it for myself. How bad could it be, right?
That's right.
But that's not the case though, right? And you're an expert and you know this. So tell us, where do we start? What are some of the the basic things that an interior designer that maybe isn't accustomed to specifying carpet and wants to start to make some money on this for his or her firm, what are some of the things that we got to start off thinking about?
Sure. Well, that's a great question, and I think it's important to understand your environment. Right, we're always talking about qualifying the environment that the product is going to be going into. So we certainly don't want to be specifying a viscose or tensile product for a family room that has 2 pets and 3 kids, right, under the age of 10. You definitely want something that is practical. We always talk. One of the catchphrases for Stanton is kind of practical luxury, right? So it's having a product that looks fantastic, but is suited either with fiber or construction to everyday maintenance. And there certainly is a time and a place for the luxury setting, whether it's a master suite, maybe it's you're an empty nester, and there isn't a lot of traffic, or there aren't many pets. So you have a little bit more leeway, but as a general rule, you want to make sure that you've got something where there's going to be a lot of traffic. You're going to want to have something that's a durable, cleanable fiber. I'm a huge fan of wool. We also talk a lot about nylon fiber, and you want a lower or more compact construction that isn't going to lay over necessarily. It's not going to crush or mat out. Those are all things to keep in mind when you're trying to specify, especially when you could have pet stains or spills regularly.
So I heard you in there. Viscose is a no-no for busy areas with kids and pets. What is it about viscose? Because what I'm hearing is, like, if it were me and I'm in my selling mode and somebody has fallen in love with this beautiful viscose carpet and I want to say to her, hey, sweetie, not a great idea. I know me as a salesperson. I need to know why.
For sure. So great question. And that's one of the things that is one of the top points of discussion when I do speak with designers, because they're curious. And surprisingly enough, many designers don't know the distinction between the viscose and tensile. And, they just love the shine. They love the opulent finish. They love silk, right?
Right.
So they're going to start specifying these products. The problem with viscose is that it hates moisture. So whether it's water, whether it's wine, whether it's soda, it doesn't matter. The nature of the fiber, the moment it gets wet, it changes the character of the yarn because it's actually a hollow core fiber. So it collapses under the weight of the moisture and can't recover, and you have a forever stained install. So that's the peril of that fiber, and that's why they introduced Tencel, which is actually a branded fiber of lyocell. I could run down the rabbit hole. We don't have to do that, but essentially, Tencel is a solid core fiber that can manage moisture. So now you've got a little bit of improved performance, but generally still we like to consider that an adult fiber, right? Somewhere that it can be put where if it does indeed get wet, for Tencel, for example, it can be with a little bit of a dry cleaning solution compound, extract that water, and it feels like it did before you got wet. You don't have that advantage with viscose. It's a very, very luxurious fiber. It's the closest thing to silk you can get, but it's also the most difficult to maintain.
Okay. And to the point of, it is important for an interior designer to stand their ground in this situation where it's very beautiful, all the colors are perfect, a little bit of sheen, it's just a look that they want, but to not be, I mean, the only word that comes to my mind is a pushover with
Absolutely.
When the client is like, but I really want it. I'm sure it'll be fine. And it's because it's our reputation on the line, and we're looking and we're saying, I want to put something in your home that with your 3 kids and 2 dogs, I know is going to stand up. So one thing I have a question about that is, like, I know my friends, Renee and Scott, they own Fiber Seal, and they were on the show one time and talking about all the miracles that they can do to help designers, protect their clients' carpet and furniture and all of that. Is viscose something that's still, even with a product that's as fantastic as that, is just not a great idea for kids and pets and all those things?
You know what? I've heard really great success stories, and then I've heard some failures. The issue with Stanton and some other carpet companies, as well as you have the chance to void the manufacturer's warranty by the application of a third-party product. So you're kind of helping yourself perhaps on one side and then negating something that could protect you down the road by doing it. So that is certainly always an option. I recommend, if anybody wants to try something of that nature, to just get a sample, test it for yourself, and then get the approval of the end user.
Okay. And so really, the answer is still do your homework. Don't make an assumption, and don't just say, okay, it'll be fine. And I'm sure professionals like Renee and Scott can help you with their expertise as well. Okay.
Indeed.
I love it. I love it. Okay. So now, where do we go from here? So we have that there are, so let's flip the coin there. So we're in a space that is, a busy family, young children, dogs and cats and stuff. And
Sure.
so fiber seal, viscose and tensile, they're not really ideal for there. What are we suggesting for areas like this?
Yeah, there's definitely some options that are wonderful. Specifically, you can switch over to a nylon. There have been tremendous strides made in that shiny nylon category that can give you a very similar look, luster, feel, and something that is steam cleanable, something that can be more rigorously attacked when there has been a stain. And there's also, with the all of the advancements that are made in polyester production now, it's even starting to rival the performance characteristics of nylon. So you do have options. I always talk in front of designers, and I kind of coined this little phrase called your trilogy of opportunity. When you're looking to get the look and feel of silk, but you want to have options with regard to performance. And I always say that the first option is viscose. It's the closest to silk that you're going to find, but the hardest to take care of. Tensile, one step away perhaps in the tactile nature of what silk is. It's still very soft, very shiny, and it manages moisture far better than viscose does. So that's an improvement and an enhancement. And then last, you've got those synthetic fibers that are the third step away from silk, but you do have this tremendous ability to clean, and you still have that sheen aesthetic that would meet a lot of people's requirements if they wanted to stay in that particular aesthetic.
So are you explaining to us that the advancements in the synthetics, they don't just look like junky carpet anymore? I mean, you know what I'm saying.
Of course. And I think, what, historically, for example, take polyester, for example. I mean, it used to have horror stories. When I started in the industry, people talked about how it would pack down in 6 months. It would never recover, but it felt like cotton and it was beautiful, but it never performed. It is not the case today. And, at Stanton, for example, and I'm sure many other manufacturers as well, are leveraging the new polyester to get not only the performance, but to get that really subtle sheen, and even in some cases on some of the nylons, a very high sheen with wonderful performance qualities, even indoor-outdoor applications with those fibers.
Interesting. Okay. And because we're sort of on fibers here, right? So when we think,
Sure.
you just mentioned viscose, tensile, synthetic. Are these
Right.
the main categories? There's no other categories. Most all carpets are going to fall into these headings.
No, actually, the primary fiber really still for a lot of floor coverings is wool.
Oh,
Wool is a tremendous fiber. It's been on the floor for centuries. That's where all the antique rugs come from, all the Persian hand-tied rugs, Tibetan constructions. Those are wool productions, and they last and perform brilliantly. That's what I have throughout my entire home. So, wool is a very, very popular go-to choice. Takes color extremely well, cleans very well. One of the misnomers is that wool can't be cleaned, and I think there was a big disconnect when some of the high-profile nylon manufacturers had people believing that the only way to protect something was to seal it with something, apply something on it, or have something inherently within the fiber to repel stain. And wool has so many of those characteristics naturally. You've seen, I'm sure, on a lot of nylon samples and other descriptions of the fiber, heat, set, crimp, all that. What they're doing is just trying to emulate what wool does naturally. So that's really a huge category for us at Stanton, and of course for many other vendors across the industry.
It's a funny story about wool carpet. My husband and I got married in '86. Okay. And my husband's parents lived in the same house since 1948, I want to say, or 49.
Wow.
And they had wool carpet that was in the house since 1948. No joke. Okay.
See?
And it was, there was no wear marks. They raised 3 boys who, if they were my kids, I would have given them away to somebody because they were banshees. Okay. and so what happens is, the funny story is, my husband and I, we ended up getting married. We buy a house down the block from my in-laws, right? And we're moving in, and we're like, going to redo some of the spaces, and we're going to redo the carpet in our bedroom. And my husband says, you've got to go see Henry. My mom and dad have used Henry forever, and Henry will take care of us. And my husband calls Henry, tells him I'm coming in, and he says to Henry, show LuAnn wool carpet. And I don't know anything about carpet, right? And so I said, Henry, why do I want this carpet? And he goes, oh, because, see how well it's lasted in your mother and father-in-law's house. This is really going to be something that will be in your house forever. And so I picked my carpet, and I came back, and my husband says to me, did you order the carpet? I said, yes. He goes, did you get a nice wool? I said, no, I did not. He's like, why? And I said, because I don't want it to last 40 years. I want it to wear out so I can pick another one in 7.
That's right. We need to continually evolve the interior.
Exactly. I'm like, are you kidding me? 40 years of the same carpet?
That's a dynamite story, because I've heard that on several occasions. I mean, and that is really, the reality. Wool is just so durable, and it's so cleanable that it does last for generations. And so I appreciate your perspective. I get that. You want to evolve. That's good. That's great.
It's the truth. I was just like, no way, man. No way.
Yeah. You're not sticking to this for 40 years. He had an ulterior motive, though. Your husband knew what was up to.
That's it. So when we talk about, one of the other things that occurs to me when you're talking about the synthetic fibers and stuff, I don't know a lot about this stuff, so I might be down the wrong rabbit hole here, but I do know that I have, only in the last 8 or 10 years, have had our customers, our clients at Window Works, and I've known designers, clients to say, well, is it going to have off gases and that sort of a thing? So does that happen more or less with any particular fiber than another?
You know what? Not particularly. I mean, certainly we in the industry have to pay very close attention to all of the guidelines, and especially the VOC guidelines in California. They kind of set the standard, right, for what's what the ability is to have certain levels, and they're so very low anymore. But that really is a function of sometimes perhaps even the backing, not even necessarily the fiber itself. But I think anymore today, those have been reduced to such a low level that they're almost immeasurable.
Okay, well, that's good to know, because this most recent generation of adults, right, the people that are in their 30s now, I feel like they're the ones that, for me at Window Works, started saying to me, is this going to have off gas? Is this going to be this, blah, blah, blah. So
Sure.
It's, 8 or 10 years now down the road, and you're saying that this has been mostly managed.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. And it's a very, very, some people have, in some cases, hypersensitivity to certain odors in general. And that's really the only time we would ever run across a claim of that nature. It's very few and far in between anymore.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. It's good to know that you're making progress.
Indeed. Yep.
Okay. And so under the category of fibers, is there anything else that we should know before we move onto the category of construction and the things that we need to know about that?
Yeah, one of the last things I kind of wanted to mention, because of the strides that have been made in fiber production, one of the kind of really impressive strides that we've made even at Stanton is the UV stable fiber. And, being able to create a fiber that will not fade and can be used indoors and outdoors. And, so many times I think the general conception of the outdoor rug was just to be durable, to just be, very flat, almost mimic a sisal and so forth, and just put it next to the pool or under a rattan set or something outside. That whole, this whole trend of the inside moving outside, even especially with the challenging year and a half that we've had under COVID, people are now reimagining their outdoor space because they want to spend more time there. So, raising the bar with style, with function, and having this UV stable fiber now so that the sun won't fade it outdoors, but even certainly indoors when you're dealing with, some of the challenges. I've talked to some designers, they face, they're like, we're building a home on the water. We've got a huge wall of windows. We're worried about, the intense UV rays, fading, and so forth. So we're using a lot of our what we consider kind of indoor outdoor products more as like an anywhere fiber now that we can use indoors. And designers are using these high luster, high sheen, high style products everywhere in the home, from stairs to under kitchen tables to family rooms, because they're very cleanable and they will not fade. So that's one last thing I wanted to mention, because I think it's an important stride, and we've leveraged quite handily at Stanton for sure.
Well, that is awesome because, having been in the window treatment industry all these years, that is a conversation that we are consistently having with our clients. It's like, no, you need window treatments here because you're going to ruin your rugs and your furniture.
That's right. Did you notice how I found the synergy there, Glenn? That was like by design.
Exactly, but you might be making my product obsolete, so I don't know about that.
That's never going to be the case. Nobody's going to want to just look outside. That's for sure.
That's it. Okay, so it's good to know, because that is, we've all been in, whether it's our own home, a client's home, where you move the sofa and boom, there the carpet is like 15 shades darker than the carpet around the sofa, right?
Right.
Same thing with area rugs. You move an area rug and the hardwood floor is like 3 different shades different. So the sun is powerful, and we have often put UV film on windows and window treatments on windows where you have those really very vulnerable places to a lot of sun. So it's nice to know that the carpets are coming along and doing their own job too. So that's great.
For sure. Absolutely. And we appreciate your added help there. So. That's right.
So then we do move on to construction then, and the different things like different piles and, backings and bindings and all of that stuff.
Sure. So construction is something that obviously is important based on where you're going to be using the product. In some cases, it matters more than others. But there are some standard production techniques that are pretty common, like tufting, right? That's machine tufting is something that's been around forever. It's a very fast way to make carpet. It's just the process of taking a needle on a machine, pushing a tuft of yarn through a primary backing, and then there's latex applied, a secondary backing to give it some dimensional stability, and that's pretty much the tufting process. It's very fast and is very common in cut pile finishes and frises and so forth. It's really more of a commodity type production method. There's also wire Wilton machines, though actually are the oldest carpet manufacturing machines, and they were originally used in Wilton, England. And it's a woven process where the yarn comes through the back of the loom, wraps around rods that run across the width of the loom. If it's going to remain a loop pile construction, the rod gets extracted and leaves the loop that it created. If it's going to be a cut pile, there's a blade at the end of the rod, and as it's pulled out, it cuts the loop that it created to create the cut pile. Usually a very delicate construction by the nature of the weave, but it gives you very, very clean, concise loop patterns, as well as cut and loop designs. Another type of construction is the face-to-face Wilton, which is a process where you're actually making 2 rolls of carpet at a time. They're manufactured face-to-face, just as it suggests, and at the end of production, it's like a sandwich that splits in half, and you get an A side and a B side, and that creates a cut pile and a wonderful finish. And again, another woven type of construction, the face-to-face Wilton. And one of the ones that we use extensively, really, with a lot of our brands, but primarily in the Antrim, Rose Core, and Crescent group, what Stanton considers to be their really kind of premier brands, is hand looming. And hand looming is a process of having 2 to 3 weavers on a loom at a time. And the loom is usually 15 feet wide is our standard width, which gives us a lot of advantages, so that you can actually have larger rugs without seams. You can have drop-in installations in rooms less than 15 feet wide, so there are no seams. So that actually is quite a benefit. But it also gives us the ability to create textures and finishes that you can't get off of traditional machinery. So there's a lot of different nuances that hand looming provides. One of the things is that you've got a more labor-intense process. So 2 to 3 weavers can weave about 80 lineal feet of carpet in a week. So it takes some time to do. It's really more like weaving fabric. It's not a traditional hand-tied method. It's not actually a tied piece. It's still woven. It's very similar to the wire wilted machine, but with manual labor. We actually leverage that quite extensively, even when we're just doing our in-stock rug program, which is pretty extensive for us now. We use hand looming exclusively for that because they're handmade finishes. They're absolutely stunning, but we are able to do them on loom to size, usually between 6x9 up to a 10x14. And hand looming makes that process very, very unique and allows us to do some great designs. And then finally, one of the other constructions that gets used, probably not as much as it may have in the past, is Axminster Construction. And that's actually a loom that creates a cut pile finish, and it has a lot of use in hospitality. You'll notice that those are kind of the patterns and the constructions you see in casinos and in hotels, because it's an 80 wool, 20 nylon blend, and you can create greater durability by creating more rows per lineal inch. So the Axminster carpet is actually specified in 7, 8, 9, 10 row Axminster, and that's kind of relating directly to the durability. So that's kind of a quick recap of all of the different kind of manufacturing processes that we use here at Stanton.
So if I'm your garden variety designer and I've got a working knowledge from having my own home and doing some different spaces and so forth, but when you just went into these terms, even in all my years in business and the little bit of dabbling I've done with carpet, I haven't heard these terms before. I've heard of Welton before. I've heard of cut pile, but Axminster and other things like that. So if I'm a designer and I want to be A game, I want to know that no matter what I do and whatever I specify, I'm 100% sure that I've got my information proper. Stanton, your company, is supplying retailers and probably trade showrooms all across the country and possibly the world, right?
Correct.
So we're not going to deal with you. We're going to walk into one of our trade showrooms or a retailer and say, I'm interested in specifying carpet for a client. But who's going to teach us that stuff so that we're not just relying on whoever the salesperson is at the trade showroom or the retail showroom? Maybe they don't have this level of expertise. Where do we learn the details of this stuff?
Yeah, that's a great question. And actually, we have a tremendous sales team out on the street that is, charged with this education for the people that are showcasing our products. We really don't want to put anything on a selling floor that is a mystery to anybody that's charged with selling it. So, that is the first step, is to educate the actual either retail sales associate or the designer within the confines of a wholesale direct showroom. And we do our best to empower them with knowledge so they have those answers. If there is a technical question that needs to be addressed, we open our doors to our dealers and we say, look, if you have a question, feel free to contact our quality control department. There's definitely a chain of information from the retail sales associates to our rep. Many times our dealer will call our sales rep and have a conference call, or they'll invite them into the showroom to discuss any of those details. And I highly recommend to your listening audience, to take advantage of those resources, because we can definitely give you all the information, maybe even more than you care to have, but it's better to have more than not enough. But those lines of communication are out there to definitely give you the answers you need.
Okay. And so the idea of it is that first of all, we primarily want to, we want to primarily patronize our designer trade resources for sure, right?
Correct.
And so for example, here in New Jersey, we have Exceptional Flooring, and they are a trade showroom for designers. And so what you're saying is, companies like yours, Stanton, who is the big brand that has their product in Exceptional Flooring, for example, and maybe there's other brands that have their product in Exceptional Flooring. Your
Correct.
mission is to educate the sales staff and the support staff at that designer trade showroom. And then we only have to say to that showroom, I would like more information beyond the look, the style, the feel. I want to really understand what it is that I want to know about carpeting so that I'm an informed person when I go to do my projects.
Indeed, exactly.
Okay.
And any questions that they may not have the answers to, we're a phone call away, whether it's the sales representative or even our quality control team in Calhoun. We're here to support. That's our job. I mean, even I get calls directly all the time from some of our customers that want to reach out and get a little better understanding, because it is something that, to your point, it isn't really stressed, right? People are like, okay, here's a great looking pattern. It's got the right color. I think it's going to be suitable and durable for my stairs. Does it matter to them if it's tufted or an Axminster woven or a wire Wilton? Probably not. But there are nuances to those types of constructions. For example, because a wire Wilton is a woven carpet. So if you were to pull one of those rows or snag one of those rows, it'll do what they call a zipper, and it'll just unravel, right? I don't know if you've seen
like
it.
Pantyhose. Like,
Yeah,
see you bye.
There you go.
I don't know if anybody listening even knows what pantyhose are. There you go.
Trust me, when they zipper, it's not pretty, but it's definitely the same sort of scenario. So, there are perils to certain constructions that you may not consider. And that's why, you also move down the road to, okay, we found the right color and pattern. We think we have a suitable construction because based on where it's going and the type of pile that it has, it seems suitable. But now, how do we care for it, right? What are the directions to keep it looking this way for as long as possible?
Mm-hmm.
And that's really when you start talking about, is it a dry clean only scenario? We recommend host or capture to give a couple shout outs, not intentionally, but they are the two main names within the industry that are dry cleaning powders that you sprinkle on a spill. They wick away the moisture, you vacuum them up, and that's kind of how you maintain daily spills. And then vacuuming, which, most people may feel is not as essential as a care and maintenance as you might think, but it truly is, because we've got to get the dirt, we've got to get everything off the carpet so it doesn't get ground into the backing. But you have to be careful. If you have a loop pile, you want to have suction only vacuum cleaners. You want to have a vacuum that disengages the beater brush. I don't even know if they have beater bars anymore, but if they do, we need to disengage those because you don't want to be agitating the fiber. You don't want to be pulling loops. And in a claim recently that we had, one such brush grabbed a wire Wilton and zippered it about 6 feet. Oh. So there are repairs to that. You can reburl it to fix it. There are remedies, but they're expensive, and they could have been avoided by just using the right vacuum cleaner.
See, that's the type of thing to me that sets a design professional apart from other design professionals. When you can walk in and not only talk about, the scale, the proportion, the style, the color of all the things of the carpet that you're recommending, but then you can say, and this is why, because of X, Y, and Z, the fibers, the content, the suitability, and here's how you're going to maintain it and make sure that it looks, good for the rest of your life, and not just like walk out the door and figure that anybody understands, to disengage the brush roll mechanism of their vacuum cleaner. Like I would know that. How would I know that? I'd be like, it's a carpet, it should use a brush roll. Right?
Absolutely. And that's a great point. And I think many of the designers that are bold enough and brave enough and assertive enough to make that point, that's really where they add value. It's not really whatever the end user wants, the end user gets. It's got to be one of those things where not only do I know what's best for your interior in terms of color and style and pattern, but now let's talk about the actual practical living that you're going to have to accommodate to get this type of product, right? So that's where I think that discussion, that upfront kind of managing of expectations is so important.
I agree 100%. And it's, it's important with carpet, but it's important with hardwood floors. It's important with furnishings. It's important with everything.
Absolutely.
But the carpet is such a major purchase and such a Well, quasi and permanent. It's not as sort of permanent in my house as it was in my in-laws' house, but it's a somewhat permanent purchase.
Right.
Right? You
That's
just
right.
don't take it back. You just don't say, this isn't working, right? And so
That's right.
and that's why I love, all of the information that you're sharing here, because the more informed we are, the better we can, guide our consumer, and then that consumer remembers our knowledge, and they come back to us not just for our aesthetic and our style, but for that level of professionalism.
Indeed, and it lends to the credibility, right, of the individual as well as the project itself. I think that's, I get phone calls all the time. I'll get from acquaintances from the business, 15 years ago. They'll say, Geoff, I'm not calling about anything else other than to pick your brain, right? And that phone call came because either I gave information or some guidance at one point that helped them out, and they're back for another round, another dose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned suitability also. Is that really just another conversation that piggybacks on, viscose isn't good for a family room and la la la, or are there other topics or points under suitability that we should explore?
For sure. I think one of the key ones is that, and we all do so much of this work, is stair installation, right? And stair specification and the abuse that stairs get. We have to be very careful, certainly qualifying the environment, number one. But I think just really what I always tell people when they're asking me, how do I pick a product for the stairs? It's really kind of these common sense things of, okay, we know it's going to get a lot of traffic in some cases. We don't want a real high pile or something with a lofted loop that could crush out, right? So you want something that's dense and has, a good amount of pile in the face. And if you have a loop pile construction, you want it low and tight so that you're not constantly compressing those loops, that they have a shorter distance to travel when they are compressed. So they return quicker because it's not as long a journey to get back to where it started. Those are the types of things to take into consideration. There are some lovely cut pile products that are suitable for stairs, but they're dense. They're, not loose pile that will lay over. You've seen, I'm sure, LuAnn, in the past, someone's staircase that has on the nose of the stair, it almost looks worn, right? Because those piles have rolled over and laid flat. It just wasn't dense enough to handle traffic. And the other thing is that you've got to be careful that you're always vacuuming your stairs as well, because you want to keep whatever pile there may be standing upright.
Okay. And it's interesting because I'm thinking about, just in some of the homes over the years, I'm going to really date myself now, but like the old school loop Berber pile, like really big, wide, fat loops, and having them see them on staircase, and they're just like, it's like almost a footprint trail all the way up because they're so smashed down, right?
Exactly. That's exactly right. And those are products that used to have a lot of loft to them. So they were primarily air, and they would just crush out very, very easily. So that's definitely something to consider. And a lot of the products that are in the market today, are addressing that kind of suitability concern. A lot of those things that are a little bit lower profile, almost looking flat woven. And you've got to make sure that if you're specifying, it doesn't matter what product you're putting on the stairs, you've got to use a suitable pad under stair installations. I've heard stories and I've seen projects that have not put any pad underneath because it's a lower profile product. They're like, I didn't want to see the pad from the side. That is going to cut the life of your carpet in half, if not more, because there's nothing to protect the fiber from being driven into that hard surface of that stair tread. So you really have to be not only just to pad the stair, but you have to go over the nose. A lot of times they'll just go to the end of the tread and leave the nose bare. And that's where that shoe will kick and rub and drag as you're climbing in and descending stairs. So that's a vital component. Yeah.
I'm now curious if my stairs have pad under them.
You'll have to send me a note. I'm curious now too.
See if I can look under there and see. Okay. And then the other thing that's tricky about stairs is if you want to do a pattern on the stairs. And that's where you really are needing, us as the consumer, me as a consumer, I need the designer to give me good advice, but that's when I also need my trade carpet partner to give me good advice too. I feel like on your website or something, maybe the collateral information you sent me, that Stanton has some sort of tool or something that helps us with this.
Well, we have an amazing tool that's called our visualizer tool, which enables you to take a shot of a staircase, grab one of our stock images of one of our carpet patterns, and actually put it on the stair. And you can A/B with a couple different patterns, and you can either choose from a stock stair image or your stair image from your home. It's a wonderful tool. It also enables you to do, rugs over our DWF, which is our luxury vinyl that we sell. So there's a lot of different options for that. But you hit on a great point and question, because curved stairs pose a whole other scenario as opposed to a straight stair, right? So when you've got a pattern that you're working with on a staircase and you have a curved staircase, it certainly is a much different consideration, and you've got to have a qualified woven installer in most cases, because a lot of those pattern goods are woven, and they have to have the ability to line up that pattern with following the curve of the stair and keeping it cohesive in the pattern, so that the eye follows the pattern all the way from the top to the bottom. And that's an art for sure, and usually something that needs to be cut from broadloom, and each stair is its own individual template. Whoa. They go back to the workroom, they cut the templates, and they come back in and lay them, install them on the stairs. So that's another podcast all
right. Yes,
we could talk forever about that.
And that is where the designer it is important for the designer to have really strong trade partners, whether it's, the salesman at the trade showroom, it's the installer recommended by the trade showroom, or their own network of installers, because, we've sold very few carpet at Window Works over the years. But when we have, it's typically either a simple area rug, which is easy enough, or it's been a staircase with going into a hallway and a runner. And I remember a few years back, Kim and I had a project where it was a geometric pattern, and this house had literally a front staircase, a back staircase, landings. One landing was a regular landing where you just turn a corner. Another landing opened up into this really weird, odd shape, and then around an octagon, sort of like little birdcage walkway. And, here's me and Kim. This pattern will look great.
Yeah, wow. That's the one you got for that year. Boy, give it back.
I'm telling you.
That's a tough one.
And when we, thankfully, we had Herbro, which was our trade partner at the time. This is going back several years. And, Jimmy came out and he was like, you have no idea what you got yourself into here, lady. You know what I mean? But, it was a bear really figuring out and laying how this was going to be the direction and all of the things. And, it's like I say all the time, what the level of details on every little section and every little piece of an interior design project, it boggles my mind what interior designers, really face in the course of a regular average day. And when we were working that project out, I really was like, whoa, yeah, we don't need to do this that often.
That's a lot. That's an intimidating project for the best pro in the business.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately for us, we didn't know what we didn't know. That was the funny part. It wasn't until
right.
JR came out and we were like, oh. But this visualizer tool sounds like a pretty cool thing, because whether you have this big complicated thing or not, even a straightforward staircase with even just a little landing and then maybe one turn, when there's a pattern, it matters. Your client needs to see it. You need to see it to know that you can recommend it, right?
Indeed, and that's something that you can definitely see on the Stanton Flooring website, actually, and get a look at the visualizer there. But when you're talking about curves and turns and so forth, you hit it right on the head. I mean, you've got to have a qualified installer that understands the nuances of stair work. And there are some tremendous workrooms across the country that can support those initiatives. But definitely, to your point, snuggle up to a good one that you can count on and believe in, because all the additional kind of perils that make themselves known as you get further into a project, if you don't have that know-how, can be scary.
Mm-hmm. And of course, as the big brand vendor, you have probably relationships with many trade showrooms across the U.S. And these are our people that we have to lean on. And to me, it's just like when I say all the time, if your CPA is poo-pooing you and be like, oh, you don't really need to know that, I've got it covered. It's like, I do need to know it. And the same with the trade showrooms. I'm sure, there's some really, really good ones out there, and keep searching until you find the group and the company that will help you and walk you through this. Don't you agree, Geoff?
Absolutely. Yeah. And the partners that we choose across the country, because we really do have a very strong control over our distribution, we're pretty discerning too when it comes to where we put our products. We try to give everybody the working knowledge that they have. And we want to make sure that where we exist on a selling floor, that we're confident in that team, in that ownership, in that company, to be able to fly the flag of Stanton and be able to support us. And we as well offer the visualizer tool, which is a great way for us to help the designer even do things from their own desk and from their phone. We have a create a rug program that allows you to size rugs and finish rugs and show edge finishes, because there's so many other options. Even when you're creating rugs or fabricating rugs from broadloom, that's another topic as well, with all of those different options that you have to finish a rug. So the goal is make resources and tools available to make life easier, make decisions easier to make, get free samples if you need it, and be able to actually see the products that you want to put into a person's home. That's, if we can remove some of the stumbling blocks and make those things easier, that's how we add a lot of value.
I love it. I love it. And, it's funny because when you talk about your creator rug program, it is true. Sometimes you want the binding to be, one color and contrasting. And like I said, the little bit I've done with rugs, you're hitting on the things. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. It was like, that's what color is the binding going to be? What kind of binding is it going to be? And Correct. I'm just standing there and that's why I'm such an advocate of us really learning to the point of being able to be the professional in the room, because I've been in that situation where I'm like, I have no idea what I don't know right now. That's not a good place to be in. It's not fun. It's hard to sell from that position,
Yeah, it's intimidating, and you don't want to seem as though you're not a resource they can count on, because that's why they've brought you into the project. They're counting on you for that information.
Exactly. And then one of the last subjects that you mentioned was performance. And is there something to say under that category that we haven't addressed in these other categories?
I think for the most part, we've kind of touched on them in bits and pieces. I do think that when it comes to performance, it's directly related to the construction, right, and the fiber. So, if you've got a very, very high traffic area and you're going to be, coming off of a front door and heading right up your staircase, you're going to want to make sure that you've got something that's a durable fiber in a low tight construction that is going to be able to absorb that abuse. When you've got an area that's less trafficked, and you want to use viscose because it's a lovely fiber. We still sell tons of it in this industry. It's just, now you have to be careful. It's in that velvet rope room. Remember, we all had those. You couldn't walk in and
the look at living room
all had to be going the same direction. That's how they knew if you were in there. But there's suitability for those environments. But it really is kind of just, again, talking about what kind of environment is this going to be? Who's living in this home? How much traffic do we get? Is there exposure to moisture and UV rays and so forth? And there really is a fiber now that is going to be able to address the performance needs and concerns that you have. You don't have to go to commercial grade carpets necessarily, even though in some cases in basements and other places, or mudrooms, some people opt for that selection. There's plenty of residential products that are made very, very well to withstand that kind of wear.
Interesting. And if I'm an interior designer and I'm like, you know what? I've learned something here. I haven't been, really willing to put my foot into this and start to make this part of my products and services. Is there a trade dealer locator on your website, or does it, how does the designer? There is. Okay,
brilliant.
Good.
Thank you. Yeah,
Good.
thank you for mentioning that, because that is something that we do have, that by collection, you can go in, enter your zip, and it'll pull up the local dealers in your area, and then also list the brands that they do carry. And so if you find something on StantonFlooring.com that is, of interest to you, you can see if they carry that brand within their location. And many times, our trade showrooms practically have everything that we offer.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I feel very informed about carpeting now.
I'm thrilled. I'm glad. I'm so grateful to you, LuAnn, for having me on today. It was an absolute blast, and I look forward to listening to many more of yours in the future.
Thank you so much for sharing all this with us, Geoff. Thank you tons.
My pleasure. Take care.
A huge thank you to Geoff for sharing all of these tips with us. I learned more about carpets in this conversation than I ever did before. And I want to emphasize, the more knowledge we bring to the table, the more value we offer our clients. And that directly ties into what we can charge, our profitability, our reputations, all the things that make our businesses great and long-lasting. This reminds me of my conversation with Chris Wallace of Interview in episode number 608. As a marketing consultant, Chris believes that there is a better approach than simply offering a product or a service. One of the things he promotes is leveraging your partnerships with vendors to provide this higher level of education and understanding for your clients, right? So Stanton Carpet is here to help you do that. And this is exactly what they're trying to provide, right? Things have changed a lot over the years. Your clients have a world of possibilities right at their fingertips. They might come to you with a higher level of design understanding than they ever were able to before. They have access to Pinterest, Instagram, all the things, but they do come to you. And when they do, it's important that you offer more than ever before, right? It's not just the product. That's where your knowledge, your expertise, and the understanding of the products that you are offering them make the difference, okay? So like Geoff said, if your client wants that pretty viscose rug and you know they have a dog, a cat, a toddler, and everything else, you need to be able to say, hey, you know what? I know you like the look of this rug, but it's not practical. It's not going to last. And here's what I can offer you that has a similar look, but is more durable, right? When you are the designer, you are the leader, you are the one that has to have this ability to frame this conversation, okay? It's your job to create the experience, the lifestyle, the vision that your client wants and needs. And that means sometimes steering them in a different direction that they maybe came through the door thinking they wanted. Okay. But if you don't have the understanding of the nuances of the carpeting, the window treatments, the furniture, it's very tough to do that. So I urge you to go back and make sure you understand what Geoff talked about in this episode, how the environment, the fibers, the construction, the performance work for your client and for their home. You don't need to be as knowledgeable as Geoff, but you need to have some idea of what's going on. And when you partner with vendors like Stanton Carpet or Kravit or Mydoma, any of the people that we rely on for their expertise, this is how you up your game. Okay. And don't forget the visualizer tool that Stanton Carpet has, where you can get a visual image of what the carpet is going to look like on the stairs or in the room. We're seeing more and more how technology is improving the ways we deliver our services to our consumers. It's helpful for them and for us to be able to know, to see, to visualize what something is going to look like before we buy it. Love it, right? We talked about this recently with Jessica Manamato in episode number 705, and she talked about how her company invented the tool belt. Very interesting. Go check it out if you missed episode 705. Okay, Geoff and Stanton Carpet have invited you to reach out to them via email at info@stantoncarpet.com. stantonflooring.com. And if you were listening to this episode and you were thinking, hey, he really knows his stuff and I want to take advantage of that knowledge and expertise and utilize it, go ahead and reach out. All right. And they also have, for the next 3 months, Stanton is offering you free carpet samples with the code AWDB5 free. Okay, AWDB5 free. So go to stantonflooring.com to get 5 free samples. Okay, this will be available through November 30th, 2021. So if you are listening in real time if you're listening in the future, I should say, it may not be available. All right, but for those of you listening now, AWDB5 free at stantonflooring.com. All right. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I absolutely love it. If you are listening in real time, we have just about wrapping up High Point Market Fall 2021. And we're probably still there having a great time. I hope I'm actually talking to you in real life right now. Anyway, thanks tons for listening. I appreciate you so much. Decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at LuAnnNigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.